So do you know that hackers target WordPress websites every 22 minutes? So for every WordPress website that there is, there's a hacker trying to gain access to the website. And it's not because they enjoy hacking WordPress websites or because it's easy to hack, but it's because more than half of the websites that are on the internet are running on WordPress because it's easy to set up, and which is why attackers are trying to gain access to WordPress sites. So most people don't know if their website is running on WordPress or not. You might have contracted the job of developing the website to a developer or someone else, and the person built it on WordPress, which is not bad. But after the person handed it over to you, you've not done anything, you've not done any updates, nothing. It's just like that. And I mean, it's been running for a while. The website has been up, the blog has been up. But what happens when it's your turn to get hit by these hackers? What do you stand to lose? So in this video, I'm just going to be talking about the best ways to secure your WordPress site if you're using a WordPress site. And I know most people might not even know if they are using a WordPress site. So if you're not sure if your site is running on WordPress, you can use this link, isitwp.com, to see if your website is a WordPress-based site or if it's running on WordPress. If it is, then you need to follow this video till the end. And in case it sounds, I'm going to try to break it down the best I can, but in case it's sounding too complicated, and if you are sure that your business website or your blog is running on WordPress and you cannot implement some of these security measures which I will be sharing with you, you can go ahead and reach out to me or go ahead and send a comment in the chat, and we can assist you with that, with setting up the security of your website to make it more secure. Some of the things that could happen if you don't implement these security measures are, first of all, they could deface your website by, after hacking it, they could just put some random stuff and deface your brand. So anyone visiting your website would see lots of random stuff there that you don't want them to see, which is one thing they could do. Second thing hackers usually do is that they could infect the site with a malware. A malware means malicious software. So once the site has some virus or some malware, anyone that's visiting that website automatically gets infected by malware or virus, which is the second thing that could happen. Another thing that could happen is if your site is storing some users' personal information or personal identifiable information, like their names, their date of birth, and all those other data, they could have this data and they could leak this data, or they could steal this data for identity theft and all those other things. If your website has some integration relating to finance, maybe you're selling something on your website, again, they could redirect the funds if they gain access to the website. So there are so many things that could happen, but these ones that I mentioned are the main things that are, or the most common things that hackers get to do when they gain access to your website. So if your website is not a WordPress-based website, it's most likely going to be a JavaScript website, JavaScript-based website. And yes, you also have security risks associated to your own website. In the video after this one, I will be talking about that, how to secure your JavaScript-based website. So if you're interested in that, please consider liking and subscribing to this channel. We talk about online safety, digital safety, cybersecurity career, and everything cybersecurity. So without wasting more time, let's dive right into it. So the first thing that could make your website vulnerable is if you use outdated plugins or themes. So I'm sure for those that manage their WordPress websites by themselves, you must have seen that you probably have a lot of plugins, and hackers exploit vulnerabilities in this plugin. So if the plugin is not updated, you are most likely vulnerable to an attack. A hacker can easily find those vulnerabilities and exploit it. In addition, you want to make sure that you're choosing a safe plugin. Make sure any plugin you're getting is from the wordpress.org platform. Make sure you're getting directly from WordPress. I have seen times when perhaps you need a plugin that can help you automatically send messages to customers or something like that, and you're not seeing any plugin on the WordPress platform, and if you have to go to YouTube and then you research how to do this, and then they recommend to you a plugin to use, and without vetting that plugin, because you saw it on YouTube, you immediately go to download it from maybe a GitHub account or some random place. You download that plugin and then you're using it. One thing you are setting up yourself for is possibility of data leak, possibility of database injection, and possibility of remote code execution. So I would just advise you to get plugins that are wordpress.org. If they're not on the WordPress, if you can't see them there, then you need to avoid them. because they might not be safe. So what do you do to manage the risks associated with plugins? So the first thing to do is to make sure you set your plugins to auto update. Although don't usually advise that, because sometimes it could break your website. Plugins that are unstable, if you set it to automatically update, it could automatically update, and then if there's some bugs with it, it could just affect something in your website, and your website would not be working as it should. So my advice is usually to set a timeline for when you would update your plugins, usually once a week or twice in a week, depending on the frequency of the updates. But make sure for every week you are monitoring to check if there's a new update for the plugins you have on your website. There are plugins that automatically help you to monitor that and even notify you about that. I would add those things in the checklist, which I will be sharing with you later, or which I'll be talking about later in this video. The second thing that could make your website vulnerable to any form of attack is if you do not upgrade the WordPress version. I think after the plugin, this is the second most common ways in which hackers gain access to your website or get to hack your website. If the WordPress version is outdated, you need to update it. So make sure your WordPress version is always updated. But before you update it, it's advisable to have a backup, because sometimes there are lots of bugs on this in newer updates. So there might be issues with it. And if you just go ahead to update without having a backup, if there's something wrong with the plugin, then it could just affect your whole site and everything just crashes. So it's better to have a backup. So if there's anything wrong with the new WordPress update, you can still roll back to the previous one. So but it's important to make sure your WordPress version is always up to date. So the third one is using weak passwords which are vulnerable to brute force attacks. So sometimes you set your passwords for your website and you're using your password without any special characters or without using the uppercase, lowercase, special characters and numbers. If your password does not have all of those in it, then you're most likely vulnerable to a brute force attack. What a brute force attack is when hackers just try when they automate random process of testing out different passwords on any login part of your website, and this could give them access if you're using a weak password. So it's important to use a strong password, either for the admin account or for the main account. Whatever account has access in your WordPress site, it has to be using a strong password. You can use a password manager if you don't know how to set strong passwords, but you need to have strong passwords. Then also two-factor authentication is really important. If you don't have two-factor authentication set up, you need to set it up. The functionality is there, the feature is there, but you need to set it up. I've seen lots of people that use WordPress or that have WordPress logins without two-factor authentication enabled, and this is dangerous. Also, in addition to using strong passwords, you need to change the admin account. So for example, you're using the admin username. You shouldn't be using admin username on your WordPress account. So consider changing it, because hackers, when they want to start any form of attack or the brute force attack, they try out the username admin, which is the default administrator name. So you need to consider changing. By default, WordPress won't allow you to change the admin to a different name, but you can create a new admin and then name it whatever you want. Then delete the previous admin. This is the only way you can set up an admin with a different name, but you do not want to be using admin as a user on your WordPress website. The next thing that leaves your website vulnerable to attackers is if you don't have any form of security plugin or firewall. So you must have a firewall on your website that prevents things like brute force attacks and lots of malicious traffic coming to your website. So it's important to have what they call a WAF, that is a web application firewall. So this helps you to block unnecessary traffic, any malicious traffic, any DDoS attack, that's distributed denial of service, any of those kind of things. The WAF would help you to block them. Also, you can limit login attempts. So if typically you forget your password and then you try a random password the first time, second time, the third time, it should automatically limit you from trying again. It should maybe block it for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. What this does is that it helps to prevent attackers from running a brute force attack on your login or on your website. So it's important to limit login attempts. After the first 3 trials or 5 trials, it should automatically lock the person out from trying or from trying to log into the account. So this is one security measure that you should have in place on your WordPress site. So some of the security plugins I would recommend are Sukuri or WordFence. I think those are the two top plugins for security that you could use. They are really good, so I would recommend that. So another thing that could compromise the security of your website is not having backups. So if you don't have a schedule for regular backups, then there's a problem, because if your website is eventually hacked, or if you update a plugin and it crashes or something, then you're going to get affected. So it's advisable to always have periodic backups. So you can choose that every week you are going to back up. I think every week is probably too much, or you can decide to have a backup every month for your website. And when I mean backup, I don't just mean you back up and then the backup is still on the same server or still on the same website. When you back up, most times it backs up in a zip file. You can always download the backup to your local device and then move it to the cloud, so that you have a backup somewhere else different from the server. So if anything happens to your WordPress, maybe when you're updating the WordPress and it crashes, or when you're updating a plugin and it crashes or it gets hacked, you can always go back, pick the last backup, and then reinstall on your website, and everything is back like nothing happened. So you need to have backups. It's really important. One of the best plugins for this is Updraft Plus. It's a really good plugin for backup. I think I would recommend that if you're looking to sort of automate backups and all. You can use this. I think it has a paid version that enables you to automate the backups, but the free version also helps you to do the backups, even though it does not automate it. So yeah, you need to consider using that plugin if you don't already have it or use it. So another risk to your WordPress website is malicious file uploads. So I know there are some people, or there are some websites that allow users to upload files, basically. So you could have a website where you want users to upload their pictures or to upload their documents like CVs and all those other things. So you need to limit the type of files or restrict the type of files that users can upload to your website or to the server. So you can limit it to PDF files or document files or JPG or image files. So you know those extensions, you can limit it, because if you don't limit it, it means they can put any type of file, and they can put a malicious file, a malicious script, any of these file extensions that could be damaging to your website. So you need to make sure that if they can upload, you're limiting it based on the extension. So another thing that leaves websites vulnerable to attackers is using the unsecured WP admin or the login URL. Most people are using the WP admin or WP login or /admin. And if you're using any of these three, then attackers easily know that for every website, all I need to do is, once I have a domain name, for example, sacybersafe.com, I could just put sacybersafe.com /WP admin, and then it will show me your login page. And then they could easily start brute force attack. Or it's WP/login. Once they put that URL, to show them that login page. So you don't want that. So it's better to change it to something else, so that it's not just a generic WP login or WP admin. I mean, any attacker that wants to find your login page will still find it with some scanning tools. It shows that it's going to be a lot more difficult for the person. And this is what they call security by obscurity. So you're hiding what ordinarily should be available for them, or what ordinarily should be easier for the attackers. So when you hide it, it's more difficult for them, and most times you just ignore your site and go look for an easier target. So it's better to hide that and change that. So if you check your website now, you're using WP admin, it's still your site is still accessible, your admin login is still accessible via these URLs, then you need to change it now. A popular plugin that you can use to do this is WPS hide login. So this is a very good plugin you can use to hide that and set it to whatever you want, either your name or whatever it is. Maybe don't use your name, but you can use something else to access the login page of your website. Another bonus thing I want to add is to add captcha to any forms on your website. So this is to limit the amount of bots and spam comments. And if you don't add it, you might most likely be getting lots of spam comments in maybe your blog, your website, or any form. You just get bots just keep on filling some stuff, even trying to run some commands to execute some malicious commands or scripts on those places, and they try to send it to you. So you need to make sure there's captcha. So what captcha does is that it tests if it's a human. Obviously, if it's in bots, they will not be able to go through without the captcha, even though now AI is making it easy for to bypass the captcha. But regardless, in most cases, it still makes it difficult. So you need to set captcha for every form. So if they are putting their name and they want to leave a comment, for them to submit it, they need to go ahead and fill out the captcha. So you know what captcha is, where you see different images and they'll see select the traffic light, select the bicycle, select the car, select the train, and all those other. So yeah, you need to have that set up. And yeah, you have plugins that could help you set that up. I will just put the name of one on the screen here, and I could also recommend to you in the checklist that will be available. Another security measure you could implement is hiding your WordPress version. So the essence of this is that most times when a hacker wants to attack your website, the first thing they check is well, the WordPress version on your site, is it a vulnerable one? Does it have vulnerabilities? And once they search and then they see your version, then they can easily start looking for exploits or vulnerabilities to attack websites. But if you have it hidden, then it's a bit more difficult for them to find it. Even though with lots of specialized tools, they can still get your WordPress version, but it makes it a bit difficult, which is what we want to do. Most times they don't have time to start. Once they see something is difficult, they move to an easier target. So this one again is a bit is more of security by obscurity. It's not really a security measure, but it's just going to give them tougher time when they want to attack your website. So I've mentioned a lot of things here, and yeah, some are quite technical, some are easy to follow. I would be assisting you if you need any assistance with your website. If you've checked and sure that your website is a WordPress website and you need to implement all of these things. So there are lots and lots. There are over 70 or 80 security measures you could put in place to make sure that your website is almost impenetrable. Yeah, there are lots of them. So it's not just the 10 or 11 that I mentioned. There are more, up to 70, 80. So I'll share those lists in a checklist so that you can either follow the checklist and fix the security issues or block the security loopholes, or you could reach out to us and then we will assist you with that. But it's a paid service, but you're rest assured that your site is going to be secure once we implement all these security features. And for the checklist will cost $5 for you to get the checklist. So it explains everything you need to do and what you need to do to implement all those security features. But like I said, the best way might be to contact us to assist you with it if you don't have someone that can help you with the implementation of these security features. So I hope you found this video useful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're not using a WordPress website, then you might want to stick around for the next video, which is going to be JavaScript websites or targeting JavaScript websites. But I'm sure majority of people are using WordPress, so you would find this video useful. If you work for an organization, your company, wherever you work, and they have a website, you can check if there isn't a WordPress website. All you need to do is go to isitswp.com, just put the domain name and search. It will tell you this is a WordPress site or this is not a WordPress site. And you can also check what I said. Just when you see the domain, for example, cybersafe.com, just put the WP admin or WP login, that's login. If you see the login page, then it means most likely your organization has not implemented any of this security. You can reach out to us to assist you with the implementation. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.